Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to show you how to replace the gyro system for a BMX. So we're going to replace this ingenious system around the headset, and I'm going to explain how it works as well. We're also going to replace the cabling for the rear brake. So this integrated system here, along with this integrated system here as well. Now, the reason I'm replacing it is because it's knackered, it's starting to oxidize, and it's majorly stretched. So I'm assuming that you are going to want to do that as well. Therefore, we're not going to be careful about removing it. We're literally going to clip it here and crack on. If you need to keep it, then obviously you need to remove various nuts and bolts in the appropriate way. But like I say, we're just going to crack on. First thing we need to do is just give this a clip down here. Don't worry about the setup because I'm going to show you how to do that afterwards. But we're just going to unceremoniously clip the cable here. Now then, you've got a lock nut and the actual barrel adjuster here. So in order to remove the barrel adjuster, you've got to remove this lock nut first. Pretty simple system. And you may not have this, indeed. It might just be somewhere that's just under tension with a brazed stopper, you know, like you have on a normal bike. So let me explain myself. So although this brazed part here is threaded for this barrel adjuster, your system might be different in that it's literally just this here, the end of your outer cable, and it just slots into a stopper, much like this one, but not being able to pass the cable all the way through. Anyway, whatever you have, that's what you need to remove. You're almost certainly going to be having a replacement of these as well with your replacement kit, but just keep this in a safe place if not. This, unfortunately, has had it. So in theory, you could keep the outer cables, but again, your replacement kit should come with the outer cables as well. But you can see now inside, which you wouldn't have been able to before, how grubby this is. Bearing in mind it's meant to be silver looking, whether it's stainless steel or galvanized, you can see that really has had it. So moving through to the front section, you've got the same again in this part here, where you've got to remove the lock nut. And if it doesn't come off completely, you're going to need almost certainly an 8mm. Let's have a look. Let's try the 8 first. Let's see how we get on. No, it's going to be a 10. That's better. Okay, so we're going to remove that lock nut there, which will then allow us to remove the barrel adjuster exactly like we did a moment ago. If you know how to remove yours, then obviously you can skip this part of the video. No point you watching. Just skip forward and I'll make sure there's a chapter for you to hook onto. It might be just for ASMR you want to watch, but there we go. I love watching other people work. It means I don't have to do it. Okay, so that's coming off here. And this part here, you can slip out. This is kind of the end nipple, if you like. You can slip this out and then it will just come completely out of the recess. Or indeed, you could cut it and put it through the other way, but there's no point doing it if not necessary. I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. So rather than bore you to tears, I'll do that off camera and then we'll resume the next part. Okay, so we've removed the other side as well. What you can do is just thread this part through here, or cut the cable and put it through from two sides if you wish. But that is your gyro cable done and dusted with. Now, if you want to, you can keep hold of this before bunging it in the bin, so that when you replace with the new part, you'll know how long this section of the outer cable needs to be. This side is unchangeable because of the way it's set up. This is integrated here to here, so you can't change the length of these outer cables. But if you wish to, you can change the length of this one to fit the bike that you want. This next part is exactly the same as before. Undo your lock nut and reduce the tension of it. And then you can just whip this out. And exactly as before, you can remove the nipple from its clip point, lift that out, do the same on the other side. And then this is ready to come off at the brake lever end, which I'll show you in a second. You can see by how much the barrel adjuster has come out here. In fact, it has completely come out of its housing, how stretched the cable was. So we can actually remove the whole thing if we want to. The cable possibly might be a bit caught just here. So that might need to be prized open a little bit with a screwdriver. That's slit. No, we're okay. So anyway, the cable can come out of here. And then you can just remove it as you would normally remove it from a brake lever. So that's the whole second part of the gyro removed. So now we've removed all cables. This again is integrated. You can't do anything with that. Apologies if it's out of focus. So that is what you get. You can't change the length of that one, but you certainly can change, as I said, the length of the other one. So now it's a case of getting this system sorted. Now you can keep this. If I move the camera around, you can keep it. These are meant to last many, many times over cable replacements. But just because it's looking a bit tired, the grease looks to be really gummed up with just overuse, I'm going to give the headset a bit of a service anyway. So I might as well get this out at the same time. Now, if you weren't aware, there's two systems here for holding the stem part, that's the part that holds the handlebars, to the actual frame of the bike. I know I'm zoomed in quite a bit. Let's come out here. Oh, that's a bit better. So yeah. Okay, so I've zoomed out a little bit to begin with. To show you the setup of a headset of a bike, in case you didn't know. This is obviously much more complicated than a regular road bike or hybrid or mountain bike because of the gyro system, but it's still the same principle. You've got a bolt either side, one here and one here, and this holds the stem, this is called the stem, to the handlebars themselves by way of these bolts, and then these bolts hold the whole system here to the forks, because attached to the forks is a stem that goes all the way through. I thought I would zoom out a bit for you guys just to show you the nature of the headset system and how it works with the forks, the handlebars and everything else. Now, I know this system is slightly more complex because you have the gyro thrown in for good measure, but the principle is exactly the same across most bikes, road bikes, hybrids, mountain bikes. The way it works is you have two bolts here which clamp the stem here onto the steerer. Now the steerer is attached to the fork. It's a one piece of metal, so that comes all the way to the top. And in fact, this black part here, this is a spacer, but behind this bit of spacer, you're going to see the metal for that. Anyway, we'll move on to that in a moment. So if we remove these two bolts, or at least loosen them, that would remove the tension of this clamping onto that vertical post, if you like, which means if you were to put the wheel between your knees and twist the handlebars one way or the other, the whole thing would move off kink. So it's important both bolts get done up to the right torque. But you've also got this bolt, and that is your stem bolt, and the way that works is it holds everything together. So while these might be super tight, and actually they shouldn't be that tight, if this one's loose to the point where it's come off, then the whole lot is going to come away, slapstick style. So I'm just going to bring the camera up a little bit more, and hopefully it will stay in focus for me to show you how to adjust these bolts so that you can remove one from the other. It's worth pointing out, of course, that as soon as you remove this bolt, this is the only thing holding everything together. I've got a funny feeling that there's going to be a security cap in here as well, so it won't all fall apart. But up on the stand, that is a risk. So if it were me, without doing it on a video, I would be doing this probably on the floor in a short while, so that gravity doesn't take over and pull the fork and the steerer away from the bike, and ball bearings go everywhere. If you're lucky though, this will hold itself in place for you just to remove this and replace the gyro system. I'm going to be servicing the headset. I might have said that earlier on, I can't remember. So actually I'm going to do this for the purpose of the video, but then I'm also going to be servicing the headset as well, because I think it's long overdue a change. If your gyro is looking knackered and just looking like it's really gunked up, and the ball bearings inside aren't looking very clever in here, then chances are your headset is going to be in a similar condition. You're halfway through doing the job, so you might as well treat yourself. Anyway, those are the stem bolts holding the stem to the steerer loosened. Now it's time for this one to be loosened, and actually it's quite loose anyway. These are meant to be nipped up to take out play, but he had a lot of play in his BMX anyway when he brought it to me, so I would imagine that they're completely off kilter. Anyway, I'll show you in a moment how to do that, because the play is going to be there definitely now. Once this stem bolt gets removed, the cap comes with it, and I'm just going to slide this out of the way. Now normally you wouldn't have a cable running through the bolt like this, but of course this is to work in conjunction with the gyro system, where you can keep spinning your bars 360 as many degrees as you like, and the cable won't get screwed up. So yeah, this cable is going through down the steerer and out at the bottom. That's a different system to normal, but it shouldn't be a big issue for us. Now, in order to remove the steerer completely, you're of course going to have to sort out this cable and remove the tension. There might be enough play here for you to remove it, but it's not quite enough for me to do that, in which case you're going to have to loosen the bolt for the brake cable here. I'm actually going to be replacing the brake cable, so I'm just going to give this a snap anyway. But if you were going to want to replace that cable, or rather keep it, reuse it, then just loosen this bolt, pull the cable through and put it back through again. Honestly, if you're going to go to the extent of working on the gyro, chances are your front cable needs some work as well. Okay, so we're going to remove that. That's gone. Now if we bring the camera back round to the other side and down a bit, you'll see that there's no more tension, so we can remove the handlebars completely from the steerer, making sure not to lose these. Let's just move those up slightly. There we go. Okay, just about to come off, and I'm still holding the fork just in case it decides to surprise me. Okay, so that's that done, and let's just, what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to pull this brake cable through because we nipped it earlier on, and then we are left with this kitty here. So like I said a moment ago, it hasn't all come through and fallen through, but this is your steerer I mentioned. That's part of the fork here, and this part here is the brake cable going through. We can worry about that later on. Fortunately, as I predicted, it's not coming through. I think if I was to give this a bit of a wallop at the top with a rubber mallet, the whole lot would fall through. Like I said again earlier on, I'm going to be servicing the headset anyway, but this video is for you guys to change the gyro. So what you need to do is to make sure you keep hold of the right parts in terms of spacers and all the parts you may need. Let me get yourself in focus a bit. There we go. So you need to make sure that you keep the correct order of parts, put them out on a table somewhere sensibly where you're not going to lose them, and then in time, we'll go to the table in a minute, you're going to replace the gyro parts with the new parts. So in order, I'm going to lay them all out, and then that comes off. And hopefully you can see here, the lighting hopefully is good enough. This is all really gunked up, so what I'd like to do here is to give things a good clean. But like I say, I'm going to be servicing this whole system anyway, and the fact that this is pretty much welded in, yes, the cap is designed to hold things in place like that. There's a plastic cap here. Nevertheless, I'm surprised it hasn't pulled itself through. So I'm just going to get this a really, really good clean. You can use brake cleaner if you're careful. It's not nice stuff. Otherwise, isopropyl alcohol diluted into a spray bottle is a brilliant thing. There's a little bit of rust there, so I might just play with that with a bit of aluminium foil just to get that off. But regardless, that's where you are now. The steering's nice and smooth, to be honest, but he's asked me to do a headset service, so I'll do that too. It's time now to get the new gyro parts in place of the old ones. So let's go to the table. Okay, so hopefully you can see the parts here. We've got the gyro cables, as I mentioned earlier on, and as it happens, they have new barrel adjusters on them, so the old one probably will be obsolete, but just in case it's a different thread size, it shouldn't be, they're normally universal. Keep hold of it anyway, but that's a whole new system which we're in business for. We'll deal with that in a minute, but moving down to here, these are the parts we removed. So in reversed order, we're going to be putting it back on the bike in that order. This part we don't need. This is a replacement part. It came as a kit, so we don't need that. These two are identical, so we're going to swap them over, and as are these two parts. Now obviously this is a black part, and to be honest with you, I could give this a really good clean and not worry about replacing with a shiny one. So I'm going to speak to the customer and ask him what he wants, but the chances are, because most of the bike is black rather than chrome, he might prefer that. So I'll check with him first, and then we'll put it all back on. Remember, we're going in this order now, and these two spacers, we're going to give them a good clean as well. Now, because everything is staying in place, which is brilliant, it helps make things a lot easier putting everything together. We obviously now need to put the stem bolt, and the stem cap first, of course, in its place to hold everything together. If you just finger tight it for now, don't do these ones up just yet. If you just do finger tight, then you're not going to get any surprises where things might suddenly all come away from each other. Now you need to remove the play by way of a a spanner, or for me, I've got a cone spanner, which is even more helpful, just it gets better purchase. I think it's going to be difficult to remove that play while it's on a stand. You're welcome to try, but I find it much easier to rest the bike on the ground, squeeze the front brake and just rock the bike backwards and forwards. And if there's play, if there's a wobbling and you know that it's not a loose wheel, then this can be nipped up. Now, of course, we've removed our brake cable at the moment, so that's not going to be possible anyway for the time being. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to nip this up, but only nip it. Don't do it stupidly tight, because you may well be crushing those new ball bearings you've just put in, if you did the headset service as well. And then, of course, we're going to do these bolts up too. Now, again, we're not going to do them up stupidly tight just yet, because we're going to loosen them again in a short while to get this stem bolt just perfect. But the reason we're doing this is just so that we know nothing's going to fall off or go skew-if as we're putting everything back together. Okay, so that's on, that's nice and safe. Headset is serviced, wonderful. And more importantly, for this video at least, these parts are now back on in the right way. And now it's time for the fun bit, which is attaching all of the cables to their relevant places. You're going to have, obviously, 2 replacements for the 2 you've taken off, and you might be concerned that they both look a bit similar and you don't want to get them the wrong way round. Well, if one has a barrel, it will. The one that has a barrel on the end, a barrel nipple, that's for going into the brake lever. So instantly, at a moment's notice, you will know that this is the top part, gyro, which is where the handlebars are. So I think we're going to attach that one first, and then we'll move on to the rear side. If it were me, I would attach the lever part first. That is the barrel part of the cable that slides into your brake lever. Almost certainly it'll be the same system as that, but however it is, chuck it in. I would leave your barrel adjuster out for a little bit. That means there's a degree of play for you afterwards. And then now it's a case of attaching these 2 ends down to the parts we've just replaced. So I might be able to do it here. You can see this yellow bungee cable behind the bike. That is so that I can just hold the wheel steady while filming. You might want to do the same as well, actually, because it does kind of help. Now, you want to make sure these 2 parts are in place as they should be. The reason being that if they get kinked out and then you're adjusting the brake, then suddenly it will go in and you'll lose all your tension. Now, one thing you're going to have to decide is whether or not you want the cable to come this side or the other side of the handlebars. For me, it was this way before, around the rear, and then the front brake cable came to the front. So I'm going to do the same again. Do you remember those barrel adjusters we moved earlier on? I'm just going to tighten that in now so it doesn't go anywhere. Make sure you don't cross thread. And similarly on the other side. And then I'm just going to move the bike round for a better angle for you, and you can see how to adjust it all temporarily. Now, I said temporarily with good reason, because we need to attach the other part of the gyro system to the back brake calipers to make sure we have the right tension. But what you need to do is to attach these end nipples into the groove of the uppermost part of your system here. So we're going to attach it onto that slit there, and then again on the other side. And then if you give the brake lever a quick pull with my left hand off camera, you can see things sliding up and down. Now, obviously, it could well fall off. And it's not even going back down without my fingers helping it, because it needs the spring of the calipers down by the rear wheel to pull things down. Anyway, that's in place. Now it's for part 2. And now it's a case of attaching the second part, the cable that runs through to near the rear wheel, and attaching is exactly the same principle as before. We're just going to put it over that slit there on the bottom part of the gyro, and just do this barrel adjuster enough that it hits home. I've done the other side as well already. And just to quickly show you the way the system works, when you brake with your lever, the brake lever up by the left hand, then it will pull this system up, but while at the same time pulling this system up as well. So while these cables move upwards, they then pull this cable, which in turn creates the right amount of tension over near the rear caliper. It's not going to completely work just yet because we need everything to be in place, but you get the idea. Now, moving down to this part, you might remember earlier on, I said that this brazed on part was threaded. As a result, we need to make sure, this is the old cable, we need to make sure that the replacement cable is the same length. The one that came with it, and it will almost certainly be the case for you as well, if you've bought a kit, will be much longer, because you can have different systems where the cable can thread through these 2 places, and the stop point is going to be where the caliper is. So they make it extra long for you just to make sure that it's universal across various models. But if you just size up the outer cables next to each other, you'll know where you need to give things a trim. And we're going to be attaching a new brake ferrule on the end, because these are you can't reuse these. So I'm going to just come back about, I don't know, 3 or 4 mil, 5 mil perhaps, and then put a new brake ferrule on top. There we go, all done. And just because I can, I'm going to pop some oil down there as well. If you look at my other videos, I always like to put a couple of drops of oil into the outer cables wherever I can, because it just helps things move smoothly. It helps keep out moisture and premature rusting or oxidation. I made a mistake already. You've got to thread it through, obviously, wherever things may be. Well done, Matt. Live video and all that. Okay, that's going to make its way hopefully through there and into the gyro system just there. Excellent. This is where you want to make sure things aren't starting to kink and get caught out like that, because that will just catch you unawares. So I keep pulling on the silver part just off camera here, and then I'm pulling the silver part towards the rear wheel. This part I'm moving up that away just to move any issues. Now we're going to come down to here. So that means we need a bit of play like that, and we're going to put on the barrel adjuster. Now, I said earlier on that it came with one. Actually, those were the barrel adjusters, of course, for the gyro system up here. So it's a good job I didn't bung this one. I'm just going to spray a bit of WD-40 on the threads just to help it go back into its home. You're not going to be able to see it, but I'm just going to screw into this part here. And you can just zoom onto my hand for the time being. Yeah, a bit of WD-40 has really helped. Okay, so we're going to chuck that in. As before, I'm going to leave a bit of excess, just because it means we can adjust things here and there. Okay, putting the cable through. I won't be creasing it. And then that goes in there, and you can see there's a bit of play here. That was how it was before, so we can move that up to accommodate. Okay, we're now done. That's the system mostly in place. What I need to do now, of course, is to attach to the actual brake caliper, and this was relatively simple to do. And in terms of adjusting the brakes to the wheel rims, that's exactly the same as you would do for any other brake alignment. But if you've never done it before, I'll talk you through that process as well. Okay, I've turned the bike around to make things a little bit easier. What we need to do is to remove the tension of the cable here. Obviously, every bike is going to be different. In this respect, we have two potential bolt heads here. One actually is just to be held in place. So we can do that with the aid of another 10mm spanner, or pliers if you have them. If you don't have the other spanner, but it's better to use a spanner if you can. Less chance of screwing or chewing things up. And it's a bit fiddly, but we're just going to undo this top bolt. There we go. And once the tension is removed, you don't have to remove it all the way, but there's, hopefully you can see underneath here, there's a hole which the cable's running through. So the cable is actually running through a hole underneath that washer. So now that bit of cable's gone, we're going to run the new cable through. So we're going to lift, you can't see, but I'm going to lift up that washer there and feed the cable through. Oh, brilliant, it's come through. There we go. Again, don't kink the wire unnecessarily. Now, it's always fun and games adjusting this to make sure it fits around this cable enough that there's enough tension on the brake pads without having loads of cables come out of their housing with only one pair of hands. So this is how I do it. Because we're going to be replacing this cable as well, I'm going to be doing this up. Obviously my hand's going to be in the way, but I'm going to do these bolts back up to roughly where they need to be. And then once that's done, it means that our gyro part of the system is largely done, and it's just a case of adjusting that final brake cable. Now, this is a caliper system, so things need to centralize themselves, calibrate themselves well, but I don't think that's going to be a problem for us. So while that's in place like that, there we go, I would wager that this isn't probably going to fit over now, but let's have a look. But it's not a problem if it doesn't, because we're going to be replacing this cable anyway. Let's just push these brake pads together. Yeah, it's nowhere near. So we now remove this cable, and with an extra bit of brake cable, which probably hasn't come with your gyro system, but if you're lucky, then happy days. But just with a standard brake cable, you can actually use that to replace this part here. Same as before, it slides through the middle like that. So we're going to give this a cut. If you don't have the cable, why don't I show you how to do it as is? That might be helpful. So we're going to close these brake pads to the rim of the bike. We're going to relocate the barrel nipple there into the caliper. I know you probably can't see that because of my hand being in the way. So that's that. We can then take slack off here, but this is a really horrible cable. Look at that. Ugh. And that is going to fit underneath here. I told you it was fiddly. There you go. So as I say, I would be using a new cable, but we can fit the old cable under like that. So that's now part of this system. We can now squeeze these brake pads to the rim, slide that bit back into its housing where it needs to be, and now everything is attached, and it's a case of putting this taut to the place where it needs to be. Now this is difficult because, as I say, things are really kinked up, but if I just show you the principle behind it, oops, well, that just shows how knackered it was because I've actually undone the whole nut there. Let's do that back up. So yeah, it doesn't like itself. Whoops. Live video, love that. Okay, let's just see if we can. Don't work with children, adults, or old cables, guys. Yeah, look, it's just not nice. I'm going to replace this very certainly and very soon. But anyway, you're giving this a yank through, and you're basically removing as much tension as possible. Then you do this nut back up, and hopefully it won't pull through as I nip it up more. I might block the camera for a second. But I've got a crow laughing at me outside. Cheap entertainment. Okay, I've nipped it up enough just to make the point. Okay, so I'm now going to be spinning the wheel. It's not playing. Fortunately, the wheel wasn't buckled anyway. And then if we squeeze the brake lever up at the handlebar end, then there's your system done. So everything's moving and everything is in place. So you've got your gyro system here. And now that the tension is correct, let's just get this in focus for this shining moment. Then when we pull the lever, that is exactly what's happening. Guys, we're in business. Now in terms of adjustment, you need to put your lock nuts into the correct position. If you need to remove tension, then of course you can do correspondingly however you need to. And if ever you need to remove more tension, then of course that can be done down this end. But for me personally, I wouldn't play with this anymore. I would do the playing around this area. So provided you have this roughly in the same area as it was with the previous cable, this side can be the bit that's adjusted and you are in business. What I'm going to do now is have a drink to celebrate, but I'm going to replace this cable with a new one. Again, you can use a regular brake cable with the barrel end to it if you need to. Otherwise, we are complete and we are almost job done. The reason for that is because we have yet to sort out the wobbly stem. So we'll do that and then we'll be finished. So as before, I've removed, or loosened rather, the two stem clamp bolts, and I've now removed that stem cap bolt. And what I'm going to do is feed my brake cable all the way through and down the bottom. It's going to be possibly a little bit off camera. Oh, you might better see it. But the cable itself is going to come out by the tyre. There we go. I'm going to attach that to the caliper as you would a regular brake cable. But before we finish, I'm going to put on two new brake ferrules, one at the bottom and significantly one just here. I know this is going to be slightly out of focus for you guys. Then that goes through the stem bolt. Stem bolt goes in, and provided it's not cross-threaded, you're in business. Now, if you struggle to get this in, as I am, then you could always put the brake cable in last, because it doesn't really matter. It goes straight away through that that stem cap bolt. Okay, now this is where you need to make sure your wheel and your bike frame are in alignment along with the handlebars. Hopefully you can still see this. Brilliant. And if I was to brake, there is going to be play. Now obviously I haven't set up the brakes yet, but because I've got something to push against, i.e. the toolbox, you can see that play. So using the 14mm spanner I was talking about, yours may not be 14mm, but there we go. This has got a long way to go. But again, you're not completely tightening up because you'll crush the bearings and you'll make steering really difficult because there won't be enough movement. So I'm nipping it up and going backwards and forwards. I think we're there. I think that play we're feeling now is the stem bolts being loose. So I think we're probably there. So if I just do this one up quickly and just nip it up slightly, see if there's any play. Yeah, we're done. So there's the secret. You nip up your stem cap bolt to the point where play goes. It's more helpful if you have a front brake attached, but if not, just have your wheel up to something and push backwards and forwards. And the moment the play disappears, then you're in business. If you're not entirely sure, do everything up, undo it, do it up, undo it, you'll have your play. But honestly, it's not that hard. If you nip this up, you'll know in very short time if it's done the job or not. If it hasn't done the job, don't just nip it up more. You have to loosen these two first, nip it, then do them back up again. But as you've seen, it's only a matter of seconds. So there you have it, guys. It wasn't a Hollywood blockbuster. We had a crow giving us loads of heckling in the background. But at the end of the day, this is how we do it. This is how you replace your gyro system with both the rear end and top end cables. It's how you replace the gyro system itself. And indeed, if you want to crack on with the headset servicing, then you can look at my other video for a complete how-to. But hopefully that's helpful for you guys. Please don't be put off by bike maintenance. It's as simple as that. If you have any questions, please do ask me. Most significantly, I would love it if you could subscribe to my channel. That would boost me to do some more videos in my own spare time. But other than clipping cables and putting crimps on the end and maybe replacing the brake pads, we are job done. Thanks very much, and I'll see you next time.